Texans asked to conserve energy to protect the power grid. For the second time in a week, Texans have been asked to turn up the thermostats and avoid using large appliances from 2 to 9 p.m. Wednesday. The power grid operator said it does not expect rolling blackouts. And I think the temperature, Tyler, if you want to go up so I can read the rest, is 78. There you go, 78 degrees. For the second time this week, the state's power grid operator is asking Texans to turn up their thermostats to 78 degrees and to avoid using large appliances as it expected record high demand for power grid ongoing scorching temperatures. It is asking for conservation 2 to 9 p.m. Interesting. So what do you think when you hear something like this or you read something like this?
I think in the southern states, the temperature is kept too low in most buildings. I think it's 78 is fine. I set mine
78.
I set mine at 80. And I come from Canada, but I set my room at 80 here because when I go outside, it's 90. Right? And I feel,
Come on.
I feel fine at 80.
Moore, people are going to hear these numbers. They're like, what 80? Are you talking about?
You can sleep at 80.
Yeah, I can sleep at 80. I just take the covers off.
Can you sleep at 80?
Hell no. I'm a 72 guy.
It says 80 on my thermostat.
It's about the number right
72
there.
when you what? 80?
I set it at 70.
I'm in Miami, buddy. 80. Are you kidding me? I want to feel cool when I sleep. Are you telling me that people in Texas should disregard what they're saying and just keep their thermostat at 80?
No, they should put it at 78 like they say.
78?
Yeah.
Nobody's doing that, man.
No, I know they're not. But
nobody.
When you're from the north, right, you set your thermostat probably at 75. Most people would set it at 75 or even lower. It's true. But that's because it's way colder outside.
Well, 8 months out of the year, you don't even use the AC. You use the heater.
Well, we only have AC in our bedrooms. We don't have the rest of the house air conditioned. Just open the windows.
But what about our friends in Texas? And what is it? ERCOT, ERCOT? Is that?
No,
that's the whole
78 degrees.
The real stupid thing about this is they're running out of power in Texas, one of the richest places in the world. And the reason they're having this problem is because of the huge amount of wind power they put in. Because it just isn't there sometimes. A lot of the time it just isn't there. And this is where people are going. Texas, Australia, New York, Ontario in Canada, Germany, all these countries are going to come up against this wall because they just keep building more wind and solar. The plans to build offshore upstate New York and off Long Island, there's plans to build like vast wind farms offshore. Now they're worried about the right whales being in, because white whales have their berthing up north of there and then come south, and they're going to have to be navigating through this massive bunch of wind turbines to get out of there. Maybe it's a made-up thing. I mean, I think right whales can probably get past wind farms, but
let me ask you a quick question.
The wrong thing is the wind farm in the first place.
Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm misinterpreting this, but in economics, there's a term laissez-faire economics, right? Where don't do anything, just let free market capitalism take its place, no government interference whatsoever. Just it is what it is. Let it be what it be. Is that essentially the argument that you're making for climate change or the environment? Is just do nothing, let it be what it be? Am I misinterpreting that?
I spent a great part of my life stopping toxics from going into the air and water. There has to be rules.
Okay.
But when the EPA made the ruling that CO2 was air pollution, instead of recognizing that it was the main food of all life on Earth, that was a big mistake, and they did it without Congress giving them the authority to do that, and that's been ruled against by the Supreme Court now, which is a really good decision. Like, what that did was it gave the EPA the power to determine the entire energy infrastructure and what technology could and could not be used. Nothing to do with the clean air. The air that we can burn coal clean now. It's being done even in China. They're putting good pollution control on their coal plants. But when you make CO2 a pollutant, the food of life, that's so absolutely nuts. So CO2 is not a pollutant.
What else is on your checklist? Like if you're saying, all right, no, don't do laissez-faire for the environment, like there's some things you should do. Is there a certain 3-point, 5-point checklist? Do this, like you talked about
don't
CO2. What else?
It's the don't do's that matter. Don't murder people. Don't abuse people. Don't.
But that's,
don't.
We've known about that since the Ten Commandments. I'm talking about government interference today. What should be done?
Well, there's no clear answer to that question. It's what shouldn't be done to a large extent. what shouldn't be done is calling carbon dioxide carbon. Just remember this, anybody who calls CO2 carbon, don't listen to a word they say, because CO2 is not carbon. It is carbon dioxide. We don't call water hydrogen. Water is hydrogen
H2O.
dioxide, right?
I learned that from the Water Boy. Shout out to Adam Sandler.
So you don't call it hydrogen just because it's the first letter in the formula. So these people are calling it carbon because they want you to think of soot, right? Well, why don't they want you to think of diamonds? Because that's pure carbon too, and so is graphite, what our pencils have in them. Carbon is a miracle element, and CO2 is a miracle molecule because all the carbon in all life comes from CO2 in the air and the ocean. That's where it comes from. And fossil fuels are made with carbon that came from life. So all the fossil fuels were made with solar energy. Have you heard that before?
No.
Well, how else did the oil and gas are from marine animals and the coal is from forests on the land? They were made with solar energy. That's the basis of all life, turning carbon dioxide and water into sugar. And then the sugar is the energy for all of life, from there on up to us. All life. And if we threaten our own food system with these stupid rules about not using nitrogen or carbon dioxide, maybe they're going to ban carbon dioxide in greenhouses the next thing you know. People are working in there in CO2 levels 2 and 3 times what it is in the atmosphere. And actually, right in this room now, CO2 will be at least double what it is out in the air because of our breathing. We breathe out 2 pounds of CO2 every day. And the atmosphere is now 420 parts per million CO2. When we exhale, it's 40,000 parts per million CO2 because we're taking in oxygen and breathing out CO2. The plants take in CO2 and breathe out oxygen. So it's a perfect cycle. And that's nature in a nutshell.
So if you like this clip and you want to watch another one, click right here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click right here.